Hey everyone, it's Justin from the Path to Life channel. I love esotericism and theology, but with all the various lineages and styles, each with their diverse and specific subcultures and philosophies like Buddhism, Thelema, Gnosticism, Kabbalah, Masonry, and alchemy, just to name a few, we can see an obvious conflict between these subjects. People love to declare themselves entirely correct on whatever it is they say and think, with little room for growth or reconciliation between the other topics. With every step made into esoteric theology and occultism, there are bound to be people who generally miss the mark. They preach from their own self-centered perspective and can usually be summed up as an egotist. When you hear about the dangers of the occult, the first thing you're dealing with is a group of self-centered individuals. These people are dangerous in a spiritual context and adversely active to your own progression. Self-service has become the selling point of esotericism because of the ways of wishful thinkers and egocentric personalities who saw only the tip of the iceberg as it relates to occult theory and practices. They don't understand the material, so they pervert it, emphasize superiority complexes, and in the end, wash out whatever secrets were to be had, creating intrinsically perpetuating cycles of degradation. It's the creation of a cult-like mentality, a loss of the concepts surrounding divine benevolence of which all esotericism is rooted into these spiritual positive subjects. These people are usually easy to identify. Obviously, not everyone is an egotist. In fact, the small space of the occult community, which has little to give in the first place, yet unfortunately also happens to be the most available or outspoken in the most general social contact points, gathering people who actually want to know these things and become fully developed with some sort of relationship to divinity or some mystical practice. The problem is that those newcomers typically have no real foundation to distinguish between a knower and an unknower, leading them into seemingly mundane, which while impressive at first, is a dead end and ultimately pointless. Another issue is sources and experience. At face value, this shouldn't be a problem at all. Different subjects have a variety of material, books, and teachers, all which offer their own interpretation, expansions, and revelations. However, I've noticed that instead of opening some sort of constructive argument, it's almost immediately a runaround of who's who and why the other person is wrong, leaving nothing to be gained for either party. The goal is not to fight the person verbally, but to start a critical analysis of the topic overall, supported by reference or logical inferences. To even begin doing this properly, people need a foundation. As mentioned in the first issue of The Egotist, there is a little ego in all of us. The opportunity for growth falls on deaf ears of the unwilling, some even claiming to be enlightened souls, which shockingly is a lot more common than the ancient peoples would have you believe. In fact, there's a couple 100,000 on Facebook right now misquoting Bible verses and trying to correct people on delicate matters while having no understanding of transliteration or the history of the texts in question. I'm not using this to suggest that occultists and esotericists are inherently ignorant. I'm just saying that typically, their arsenal of references are immensely limited, even in the subject they claim to be in alignment with more than any other. It's easy for someone to feel guilty of this because there's always more to be learned, but at times we have to do the best we can to come to a reasonably sealed conclusion and admit our shortcomings. Another problem that I must mention is basic disagreements, protecting personal viewpoints, and rejection of another person's statements and claims. This is something that's necessary to develop because without it, we would live in an intellectually artificial scenario in which everyone is always perfectly correct. We already know this is implausible. It defies the very essence of why esotericism and occultism are so strong. They appeal to the mental aspect of human beings by way of some mystical tie to a divine source whereby they might make sense of the world via metaphysics and philosophy, or come to further generalizations and understandings that hold an intimate relationship to the higher levels of human thought. That brings us to the question, what is the remedy for this issue? First of all, people really need to establish an easily accessible collection of texts and materials with a guided learning curve. This will serve to give people that are new to this information proper introductions into each area or field of study, which will naturally clean up the pool of newly interested partakers of occultism. Of course, there will always be an ambience of capitalism in certain circles. The greatest hope is for learned individuals, the real pursuers of truth, that value the heart of esotericism. If you find this video valuable, please give it a like, and subscribe to my channel for notifications when I make new content.